Hello, everyone. This is Daily Philosopher again, and I'm very happy to be here, share this information with you. And today, I'd like to talk about distractions and facing yourself. Okay, so I think in our lives, especially in the modern time, it's extremely important for us to basically reduce the amount of time you use distracting mechanisms like checking your smartphones like every 5 minutes. That's like becomes habitual for a lot of people. And when people feel bored, it's like, yeah, they just feel bored and they want to use this as some kind of distracting mechanism to stop themselves from feeling the boredom. And I would argue that's a bad strategy in the long run. And the reason is not that the distractions are in and of themselves bad. It's more it's more a mechanism that prevents you from facing yourself. So that's why today I'd like to talk about the relationship between facing yourself and using your favorite distraction mechanisms. I'm actually on a business trip with a group of visitors from my city, and it's interesting to watch people, right? When people are kind of like bored or they just finished something, like they finished their share of socializing, like talking to each other, you immediately will notice that shortly after a social session, people pick up their phones as if there's no better thing to do, right? Well, it's become something normal, but I don't think it's necessarily a good thing to do in the long run, mentally speaking. Because, what is boredom? If we really look into this, we can find that boredom actually is a time when whatever you are busy with is over, or you're using some entertainment mechanisms like watching TV or checking your smartphones, and eventually whatever that thing is you're using will end. And when it ends, there is like a vacuum, right? Now you don't have something that can distract your attention anymore. And now what? You start to actually feel that you're facing yourself, but you probably are not conscious of it. And if at the same time you pick up your phone again or you start to watch a short video again, it's like that part of you that you start facing still stay hidden, right? Still's hidden, and you're never. And now we have this thing called smartphone, right? Actually, I'm recording this video using my smartphone, but it's a good tool. I can record a video, share my thought with you. But if you use this as a never ending distracting mechanism, I think that would be a very wrong route to go down to, because then you would have such a convenient tool with which you just can endlessly distract yourself. However, imperfectly, we all know that ultimately you still feel bad about using it, but it functions quite nicely at the end of the day. And even if it is a failing strategy, somewhat it can still hide a big chunk of yourself from you. However contradictory that might sound, I think if you've been doing meditation for some time, you probably know what I mean. We're talking about you, but there are different parts of you, right? There is a part of you feels like you're watching your thoughts and emotions and feelings. And there are the thoughts, emotion, and feelings that content, so to speak, themselves. All right. And what I'm want to stress here is, at the end of the day, if we keep use our favorite distracting mechanisms. For a lot of people, that would be checking your smartphones every 5 minutes, or basically use something like that, right? Some people play mobile games, and very frequently, whenever they feel bored or when there's like some waiting time, right? It's interesting to watch people when they are waiting, instead of just become conscious of whatever they are, right? Face themselves. They pick up their phones and they don't have to face themselves. And what I'm talking about, you might be wondering, what is exactly is the thing when I talk about facing yourself, this yourself part. I think a lot of it is the struggle we face. So that's connected to what we had in the last two videos, right? And also your worries about the future, which is a kind of struggle too. So basically, the raw struggle that you as a struggling machine or a desiring machine has been producing or creating for yourself every moment. And that can be quite bad, because now you are using the distractions and you never really get to the root problems. And you start to externalizing the problem. You see the problems in other people. You see the problems in situations, circumstances. Yes, those are amplifiers, but you must have some kind of struggle potential, I would say, or struggle seeds in your system or in your body somewhere, if you can locate that, in order for that to bloom or to flourish, right? For your struggle to flourish, you firstly should have some kind of potential that's already in your system. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a thing. That's just as simple as that. So I hope I have made my points here. So in a word, maybe you want to consider as a practical strategy to reduce the amount of time. I have reduced my screen time to a large chunk. Doesn't mean that I don't check for important information, but it's just that through meditation, I see that, hey, it's kind of insane to keep using this strategy to postpone facing yourself, right? Because if facing yourself, which means facing your struggle, your personal struggle, basically, that can be different for many people, for everyone, is the real issue and the real lesson you need to take, then using the distraction mechanisms like watching TV or checking your smartphone, even more insidious than watching TV, because you basically have your TV in your pocket 24/7, and you can use it wherever you want. So it's even worse than watching TV. But my point here is, if you keep using that, maybe it's that's the most important part that you need to pay attention to, right? Like, just reduce the amount of time. So when you are waiting, or when you finish talking to your friend, right, and you're sitting in front of each other, and it feels awkward, right? And you unconsciously just pick up your phone and checking message for no reasons. Why? Because that's the time when you have to face your struggle. There are awkward moments like that in socialization, and also you maybe like are conscious of yourself being like having nothing to say, and it's like kind of strange. So you want to use the smartphone, very obviously, actually, but it becomes a norm that people just like use this endlessly to distract themselves, which I have considered to be insane. And at the end of the day, maybe what you want to do here is just be aware, right? Be aware of whatever struggle you have finishing a conversation, and that the struggle stay there. Maybe, as a starter, just make it stay a little bit longer before you pick up your smartphone, or not picking it up at all. And that might feel awkward because we're making the insane thing normal now. So the normal thing becomes awkward. But I would argue you can still do something interesting and useful. I reduce the amount of time of mindless scrolling. I still scroll for information and watch videos when I need on YouTube, for example. But I don't do the kind of a scrolling like mindlessly or the TikToking short video searching sort of like scrolling, right? Where you just mindlessly scroll for something interesting. Now my use of videos are more intentional, and I really have started to like that because it makes me more aware of whatever personal struggle I'm have. And I'm sure everyone has that. Even the super rich has their own personal struggle. But if you continue to use your distraction mechanism to distract yourself from it, you're never going to see the problem. Okay, now what are the alternatives? Okay, you can still read books. I found books, especially deep philosopher, sub philosophy related books, like the meditation by I don't know. I don't remember his name. It's the Roman emperor, right? I think it's the Cyrus or something along the lines of that. Sorry, forgive me. I really have forgotten to pronounce it. And you know, some interesting books like Robert Wright's book. I'm now reading for the second time, Why Buddhism is True. Books by Ajahn Chah, by Sam Harris, and many others. I think are interesting because the good things about reading the books is you don't actually get to use them as distractions that perfectly, right? It's like when you are reading them, you're highly immersed, but it's not like you totally shy away from yourself, right? You still can be aware of your struggle at the same time if you really try. So actually that becomes ironically useful because, you know, the reasons why people use distractions in the first place, like using their smartphones, checking social media, is to distract themselves. But, you know, it's the books that fail to do so that becomes why they are my favorites now. Because I can read them, but I don't forget about facing myself. Basically, you can put it that way, right? I still read books, and I still can be highly engaged, but I still can be aware that at the same time, a part of me, I'm still aware that the struggle that is present every single moment is still there, and I'm actively aware of that. Whereas if I use distraction mechanisms like checking social media and short videos, I don't know, because they've been engineered to be so powerful, I sometimes just forget about myself and totally get immersed. And that's the power of it, right? That's why a lot of people are attracted to it, but it becomes a really bad mechanism. It's a very unhealthy mechanism because when you're doing this, you're struggling, believe it or not, you're struggling, but you forget you're struggling. And that's the problem. Because if you're struggling, but you are aware of the struggle, the nice thing about it is that you keep a distance between you and the struggle, right? So the struggle doesn't become you. I think if you've been in this for long enough, you know what I mean. And a lot of people have been talking about similar stuff. Like one benefit about doing meditation or meditating is that you can get to keep the distance between you and the struggle. You can actually feel the struggle sort of like is floating somewhere. It's not like it's you who are struggling, who is struggling. So I think that's the most important thing. And if you spend time nowadays reducing the amount of time you use your favorite struggle mechanism, I would argue that it would be a really healthy life to live. And it can be laborious, it can be quite effortful, but I think it certainly will be worth it. Because at the end of the day, what we want to do is to really feel where the struggle is, because that's the problem, right? And it doesn't mean that we have to solve our struggle. Neither can we really do it in a lot of ways. I mean, sometimes you can solve your struggles by taking actions in the real world, but some of it, for example, aging, for example, the fact that we have a finite life, the finitude of human beings, you can never solve them. And that's intertwined in a lot of worries and struggles that people just have, but they distract themselves so they don't actively know that they are having those worries, and they externalize it. They think the problem lies in the work, in their family. Oh, only if my wife were a little nicer, only if my daughter or sons are a little bit more, you know, I don't know, like obedient or something, the world would be a perfect place. Only if the political scene or landscape were to be exactly what I want, the all the problems in the world would be solved. No, actually, it wouldn't be like that, because there are a lot of problems, a lot of struggles that are intertwined just in the structure of human beings in our life that cannot be solvable, but they can become something that can be aware of. And I would argue that's a better life to live, though at first it may be laborious because it seems unnatural to never use the distracting mechanisms right now. I have family members who would love to use their distraction mechanisms. I'm the only one in the family circle who does meditation, but it's fine because everyone has his or her own life. But what I want to say here is, if you're interested in this, try meditating, maybe 10 minutes a day. I now do, when I'm on a business trip or something like this, I do at least 30 minutes because I have a more full schedule. When I'm off my business trip or working in my normal routine, I basically meditate for 90 minutes, if not more. Sometimes I meditate 3 to 5 hours. So, that can be something that can accelerate the journey. And read more, because books, and I mean physical books, ebooks are not bad. Audiobooks are okay, but they both are more distracting. So you might want to read physical books, and you don't need many of them because, believe it or not, for modern human beings, reading is such a laborious task. You may imagine you can finish reading a book really quickly, but when you really do it, you're usually disappointed by your inability to read. So I don't worry about, the efficiency stuff, because at the end of the day, it's not about efficiency, it's about effectiveness. Okay. So I think I've talked a lot. I don't usually record a lot of videos, so this may be a bit, information here or there. And English is not my first language, but I really love this language. It's one of the best tools I've got. So I really want to share something with the world, with what I find, and maybe it can be a contribution to you. If that's the case, I am deeply grateful for what that's gonna be. And if you are interested in anything, you can discuss it in the comment sections, or maybe even better, press the like button and maybe consider subscribing the channel. I'll see you next time. Bye.